54 years ago on this day, June 23rd, 1972, President Richard Nixon signed Title IX into law. The measure prohibits discrimination based on sex in education programs and activities that receive taxpayer funds from the federal government. Now, since public schools across the country rely on federal tax dollars, they're subject to the regulations. Now, how much is at stake? Well, in 2025, some estimates put it at approximately $111 billion in gross program costs being paid by the taxpayer. That's just the federal tax funding. That doesn't include state and local tax collections that go to public education. So what does Title IX say? Well, it says no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. The U.S. Department of Education gives tax dollars to schools and colleges and also to certain other entities, including vocational rehabilitation programs and libraries. Now, federal agencies that provide taxpayer funding, they're required to enforce Title IX's non-discrimination mandate. Examples of the types of discrimination that are covered under Title IX include, but not limited to, sex-based harassment, sexual violence, pregnancy discrimination, the failure to provide equal athletic opportunity, sex-based discrimination in schools, science, technology, engineering, and math courses, and also a variety of other things, including retaliation. Now, recent flashpoints about Title IX is what some see as a failure of schools to provide equal athletic opportunity, as stories appear regularly across the country showing individuals born male competing in women's sports or even being allowed in intimate women's spaces like locker rooms. Some states have gone as far to take action and prohibit that from happening. A high-profile case in the U.S. Supreme Court, with a ruling that has yet to be released, focuses on state bans of biological men from women's and girls' sports. Now, that case focuses on transgender individuals in Idaho and West Virginia who are challenging the transgender bans in sports in each state. The Center Square's Andrew Rice reports lawyers for the states argue that allowing transgender athletes to compete in girls' and women's sports violates the Equal Protection Clause and Title IX. Justices on the High Court expected to make a decision on these and many more cases before the term ends by July. Meanwhile, Defending Education, a nonprofit, has urged the U.S. Department of Education to rescind the previous administration's 2024 Title IX rule that expanded sex discrimination protections to include gender identity and sexual orientation. Defending Education submitted a letter to federal officials requesting that they revoke the rule, non-discrimination on the basis of sex in education programs or activities receiving federal financial assistance. Now, this follows a 2025 ruling from a federal judge that struck down the Biden administration's Title IX rule, stating that it is exceeding its authority by expanding sex discrimination protections under the 1972 law to include LGBTQ+ individuals. In its letter, Defending Education argued that the rule conflicted with the statutory language of Title IX and raised constitutional concerns. Now, joining us to discuss the latest in the landscape around this issue on the 54th anniversary of Title IX is Peyton McNabb, an independent women's ambassador. Peyton, thanks for taking time with us today. Pretty important day being the 54th anniversary of this. Talk about why this is important.
Well, yeah, I mean, I obviously love celebrating the Title IX's anniversary. It's what gave me the opportunities that I had and let me be able to follow my dreams. But it isn't just about celebrating female athletes. It's about protecting the opportunities that make those achievements possible, because the next generation deserves a fair shot that the last 5 decades of women got to have. And they deserve a fair shot, and that's exactly what Title IX was created to protect. So I love Women's Sports Week. I think that the little girls lacing up their cleats, stepping onto the court, diving into the pool with big dreams, those dreams matter, and the opportunities created by Title IX changed countless lives, and we have a responsibility to protect them so that every girl can compete fairly, safely, and with confidence.
Talk a bit about what you're anticipating out of the U.S. Supreme Court, what you may have heard from the oral arguments in that case that's still pending. Do you and the women's ambassador, the women's independent women's forum, do you guys feel confident that you're going to have a victory out of that?
I really hope so. I've tried to be positive through this whole thing because to me it's like insane that this is even having to be questioned, especially at the highest court in the land. So to me, it should be one of the easiest cases they've ever seen because it should be like I don't know, just like a softball because it's very common sense. But unfortunately, it's not. So you do kind of wonder how it's going to go. You have judges who claim they don't even know. They're not a doctor, so they don't know what a woman is or whatever. But it's insane that it is women justices that are going against this, which is crazy in itself. So I'm trying to be positive and hopeful, and I have been through all of this because I really do believe truth is going to prevail and then that people on the right are going to get through this.
We talked a little bit about the Biden administration's rule that they filed to try to expand the sex discrimination issue to include possible discrimination against somebody based on their gender identity, right? What's your response to that, and what do you think needs to happen more clearly from the Trump administration with the Department of Education?
Yeah, I think with the Department of Education under the Trump administration, they have done an incredible job at cracking down on these different stories and giving them a platform and standing up for girls who really felt helpless and like they were crying out for help the last few years and no one was there because they were actively working against women and we were regressing all this progress that we've made throughout the years by opening it up to everybody and taking away everything that women have fought for and fought to have. So it was really disheartening to see the last administration open it up like that and kind of make it seem like they were fighting against us because that's exactly what it was. And I felt like I wasn't protected at all. And there are countless women who felt the same way I did. So I'm very thankful that we're in a spot that we're at now and that we've come a long way than we were a few years ago.
Is the Trump administration doing enough?
I think like there's still a lot to be done, and I think that the way that they've been moving through this, that they obviously care, and since day one, I mean, they campaigned on it, and then seriously actually followed through, which was encouraging to see. So I think so. I think we're moving in a great speed, and of course, there's still a lot to be done. I think that they're willing to step up and do that.
So Peyton, to finish up here, share with people how you got involved in this, right? What got you off the bench, so to speak, to get into this particular arena?
Yeah, this was definitely not what I thought I would be doing whatsoever. I had no idea what any of this meant. I wasn't going into this like trying to get some kind of career out of it because I didn't want to be a part of any of this political stuff. I just had a real story that happened to me my senior year of high school. I was severely injured by a boy who thought he was a girl, and so many adults just enabled it to happen, and it completely changed my life in the moment, and it led me to where I am right now. I have traveled the country speaking out and sharing my story because what happened to me should have never happened, and I was put in like an impossible situation, it seemed. So I figured if I could share my story and encourage other girls to stand up and speak out before it happens to them, that it would have made it all worth it. So again, I never thought I would be doing this, but the Lord had a plan for me, and I'm trying to follow it the best I can because no other girl should ever experience what I went through, and it was a completely different world a few years ago. So I'm very thankful.
And what you've learned here, what kind of advice would you give to younger women who are facing these kinds of things?
Yeah, my advice would be not just genuinely to not be afraid to speak up. I mean, you don't owe silence to anyone, and when you know that you're being put in a really weird position, you feel scared and people are threatening you into silence, there's always going to be people who are on your side and help you get through it. So the truth always prevails, and we're on the right side of history. So I'm very thankful to be as well.
Well, Peyton McNabb, an independent women's ambassador, greatly appreciate you taking the time with us, especially here on the 54th anniversary of Title IX.